for joining me. This is Bryce Weiler. Bryce is one of the founders of Beautiful Lives Project, and I'm going to mess this up and he'll go into it perhaps in his talk a little bit further. But in short, what Beautiful Lives does is it exposes people with handicaps.
You shouldn't say handicaps, you should say challenges or special needs, because if you find a parent, they're going to yell at you. So don't say handicaps again.
It's very good. So this is an educational experience for all of us.
I don't want to forget, because I might have forgotten, and then you do that somewhere else, and you'd be like, this lady just yelled at me, and I don't know what I did. So that's what you did. So,
exactly. And we shouldn't diss abilities as well.
I mean, saying that would be better than saying handicaps. You can get away with that, and handicaps, the government doesn't even use that anymore. So.
And so what I've been learning the last day or so, and in the weeks leading up to this, is an awful lot. And one thing I've learned is that Bryce is just a wonderful human that has exposed a lot of people to things that weren't readily accessible for them as it relates to sports and cultural events. And as Bryce said, if somebody wants it, he'll put together a program for cooking. He told me that last night. So anyhow, with that, let me introduce Bryce, and I think you're going to enjoy what he has to share with us today.
Are you going to hang out up here, or are you going behind the desk too? You can hang out up here if you want. I'm not banning you. Are you staying, or are you going?
No, I'm gonna go stand over there, I think.
Well, it's kind of lonely. You can stand up here. I mean.
So I think that's his suggestion, that I stand up here.
Not getting down a chair.
And I think
stand in a random corner, like that just seems weird.
We see, I think I serve as a prop. And so I will remain right here and vulnerable to all of y'all, because I think that's an important quality to have. So apparently I need to work on that a bit. So.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bryce Weiler. I was born 4 months premature with an eye condition called retinopathy of prematurity, which caused me to be blind. And growing up, listening to sports on the radio was very important to me, listening to Brian Barnhart of the Fighting Illini and Don Fisher of the Indiana Hoosiers, because I'm from the Midwest, so I never really listened to teams like Georgia Tech and my friend Wes Durham until 2003, when I got an XM radio for Christmas and discovered all the ACC commentators. Wes's dad, Mr. Woody Durham, who used to commentate North Carolina Tar Heels, who passed away a few years ago. But growing up, listening to these commentators commentating, I always wanted to be able to go stand on the basketball court and shoot free throws before home games. I never thought that I would be able to do that. But then I went to a summer college program in Evansville, Indiana, at the college there. And Evansville's former head basketball coach, who was unfortunately fired last year, is now an assistant coach for his friend Brad Brownell at Clemson in Clemson, South Carolina. Marty Simmons gave me the opportunity to sit on his Evansville Purple Aces men's basketball bench from 2010 through 2014. And sitting on the Evansville bench really changed my life, because it gave me the opportunity to realize that although I might never be able to live my ultimate dream in life of being able to see that I'm able to be around players and coaches and take part in sports, I got to shoot free throws before home games, hang out with the dance team. They would come shoot with me. I would cheer them on when they danced at halftime, because I never went back for Coach Simmons' halftime speeches because he cussed a little bit too much for me sometimes. So I didn't really want to deal with that. But sitting on the bench was something that I dreamed about doing, and something that I really took for granted for the first 3 years. Like, I just always thought there would be more home games, but eventually, just like all good things in life, stocks and everything else, it comes to an end and it goes down. And my 4th year at Evansville, I really took, I really realized, I don't have very many games left sitting on the bench. So I started, you can't really enjoy it more when it was something that I looked forward to throughout the entire year, but I guess I just realized that I'm not going to have this anymore, and I didn't when I went to graduate school. It was a lot harder for me at Western Illinois and Macomb, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I really give Coach Simmons a lot of credit for letting me do that, because I definitely made it somewhat harder on his coaching staff. Like, one of the student managers would always sit with me, so I didn't have players diving into me for basketballs or get hit by an errant bounce or chest pass from a player. Almost got killed by Justin Henson of North Carolina, who's now in the NBA, when the Tar Heels played at Evansville in 2010, because he jumped over some chairs to try and save a loose basketball, but he missed me by 1.5 feet, but it was still really close and stressful. But so that was one important aspect of my time at Evansville, and then also being able to commentate sports on the radio, which many people didn't think I could do because I can't see, but my friend Tom Benson taught me how to broadcast sports on the radio by reading facts about both the teams playing in the game and reading up on the coaches and listening to the team's games beforehand. But there was once a man named Mike who didn't want to let me commentate with them because he didn't think I could do it since I can't see. So he tried to get out of it and called my friend Tom Benson, and Tom said, "You got to let Bryce commentate with you because I say so, and I'm your boss, so you're doing it." And Mike really enjoyed commentating with me during that women's basketball game in 2012, and then we did a few more games since up to 2014. I never really called him that much though, because it really bugged me that he didn't want to let me commentate in the first place, and someone had to convince him. And then unfortunately he was killed in a car crash in Florida 3 years ago, and I kind of wish that I would have called him more, because even though he didn't think I could do it, he still let me commentate with him, and I just regret not calling him more, and I really wish that I would have, because now I can't. So that's something about that. But also, there at Evansville, I had many students who would help me in the cafeteria getting my food or coming to shoot with me. In the practice gym, Evansville had a nice $3 million practice gym built for their basketball programs in 2012, 2013. And I got access through that with my swipe card, so I could go shoot on the $10,000 baskets they had in there and everything. So had a good time with that, and I really took those students for granted at Evansville. I'd have different individuals eating with me Monday, Wednesday, Friday for lunch, and I'd have my Tuesday, Thursday dinner people, and my Monday, Wednesday, Friday dinner people, and my weekend breakfast people who wouldn't get drunk, so they'd be up at 11 and everything. And then I got to graduate school at Western Illinois in Macomb because I wasn't finding any jobs coming out of Evansville, and no sitting on the basketball bench because Billy Wright didn't want to let me. The athletic department didn't want to let me do things even though they said they would, which is why I went to school there, like commentating games on the radio, helping raise funds with fundraisers from all my famous sports friends like John Calipari of Kentucky, and Rick Pitino used to coach Louisville and had some troubles in his life, and now he's not coaching Louisville anymore, and other people such as that. And hardest of all for me was finding students to help me in graduate school, because no one wanted to help me get my tray in the cafeteria. We had a cafeteria in our dorm, and I would always stand down there by the entrance and ask random people if they wanted to eat with me or help me, and they would say no or just ignore me and walk by, and it became really stressful. And there were times when I didn't want to go down and eat dinner, but the food was really good, so I kind of liked it, and I was hungry. I'm kind of weird, and I like cafeteria food, so I really liked the food there a lot, more than Evansville's food. So I would eventually get hungry enough, and it'd be almost time for them to close, and I'm like, God, I have to go down there and ask random people if they want to eat with me. But some of the people who I found there at graduate school, they're some of the most important people to my life, because they saved me and really helped me through 2 years that weren't really challenging academically, because I guess it's just supposed to be in most graduate schools that your graduate school is easier than your undergraduate, unless you're doing business, and that's hard everywhere, right, Robert, from your two
Well, of course.
Yeah. Even though that was 1983, I'm sure it was still hard then, even though you didn't have all the little video things and everything.
There were plenty of environmental distractions, I can assure you.
But, so that's something that I really learned in graduate school, is you shouldn't take things or people for granted, because I really did at Evansville, and then I didn't have it at Western Illinois, and it was a hard 2 years for me. And coming out of that, I still wasn't finding jobs working in sports, because there were certain aspects of a job that I can do, and they'd be like, oh, you have to wear dress pants in the summer, and I'm like, well, I don't mind wearing dress pants in the summer, but you're having me go outside, and that's hard for me to get hot when I have to go outside, because that's bad for my eye pressure, and then I get dizzy, and then I might fall down and everything like that. And they're like, well, you can't do that then, because we need you wearing dress pants in the summer. So that was that. Or there was a random part of a marketing job where they used Google Sheets or something, and I couldn't really use that, so then they could just find someone to help me do that one little section of the job, but they didn't want to do that, so then they just said, they made up other reasons of why they wanted to hire someone else, but they just picked someone else. So I've never really known what it's like to apply for a job and actually get it, because all the jobs I get, I just email people or call them and convince them that what I'm doing has value, and sometimes they let me do it and sometimes they don't. So like, all you guys had to interview with, Robert for your job, right? And some of you in this group did, and I don't really know what that's like. So I can't say, oh, like that's wonderful. Like I'm sure it was stressful. I mean, something that I hope every group of individuals gets who has autism or special needs or challenges is going through that interview process and not and not having it be something that is fake, but something that's actually real and meaningful, because I think everyone goes through the fake mock interview in college, but it's nothing like going through it actually when the pressure's on the line of getting the job or not getting the job. So maybe at some point I'll know what that's like, but I guess I'm just good enough emailing random people that I find enough jobs to keep myself busy without having to go through interviews. But everyone has their interview story when they're talking about how they got a new job at whatever they're doing in business or finance or economics, and they're like, well, what's your interview story? And I'm like, I just figure out email formats and email people. I don't really have an interview story, and it just makes it kind of strange. So the first email format I figured out was for Baltimore's baseball team over at Camden Yards. Their owner, Mr. John, I've been working with him to make Camden Yards and the Baltimore Stadium, Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota, more accessible for all fans. Also helped Baltimore become the first ever team in sports to wear Braille on their jerseys last year to promote people who are blind learning how to read Braille and showing how important that is. That was really important to me, and because more teams in this country need to do things for all fans who have special needs, and not just pick whatever group they want to target. The key group now is fans who have autism. Everybody loves doing things for fans who have autism, and they get recognition for it and all the awards. But teams like the Braves here in Atlanta, they don't pick a favorite group. They have ushers on staff who know how to do sign language and everything. So whatever group comes to an Atlanta Braves game, they can take care of them. So they're really the model in sports for what a sports team needs to do to make every group of fans feel welcome. So maybe one day I'll get the staff in Baltimore to be up to the Braves level. It's something that I strive to do, but I get really concerned about all the fans at Baltimore when I'm not there, making sure the staff takes care of them and gives them what they need. I kind of stress out about it when I listen to, home games. So I don't really listen to too many of the Orioles home games because I get concerned, like, oh, what if a blind fan needs guided somewhere and the staff isn't doing it? So I actually tested them once last year for the Braille Jersey event because I didn't have anyone to go with me. And the president, he's actually scared to guide me places. He won't do it. It stresses him out. So he will pay to fly someone in to guide me, but I didn't really necessarily have anyone. And I guess I could have gotten someone to take off of work, but it makes me kind of mad that he's scared. Like, he wants to run programs for people who have special needs, but he's scared to guide someone who's blind around, so he'll just pay $2,000 to fly someone in to do it for him. So I just said I wasn't doing it this time. So I had someone guide me. Madison was her name. She's in all the fancy stats and analytics they use now in baseball. She'd fit in well with your company, all the PowerPoint projections and charts things you guys do. They do all that with their analytics now. So she does all that fancy stuff, and she guided me. So we're going over to Mr. John's suite to have a visit, and Madison had to go because she had to drive back to Washington because she wasn't hired yet as a full-time staff for the Orioles. And Mr. John's like, oh, why don't you go with Madison and she can take you back to your hotel, because he didn't want to have to guide me back to the hotel, and that makes it really hard when, he's definitely one of my favorite people in the world. I just don't know how I'm going to break him of being scared of helping out someone who's blind and things like that, but it's something that I have to do somehow, and I'll have another chance next month because I'm doing a ticket sales day with their staff next month, so I'm excited about that. So after I did Baltimore for a year, I went to a blind training program in Chicago where I learned how to use Excel and PowerPoint on my laptop, learned how to cook. When I'm bored at 12 o'clock and I don't know what to do, I figure out email formats for places and people. So I was bored at 12 o'clock and I started figuring out email formats for baseball leagues like the Frontier League and various other leagues. So I figured out the email format for the league that the New Britain Bees are playing in. And I emailed the president of that league, Rick White, who's been the president since 2014. he told me that New Britain had a new owner, Anthony Icavone, who wanted to do playing on the field programs with his team. So I emailed Anthony, told him what I'd done with Baltimore, and explained to him the types of programs that I wanted to do with his Bees team, playing on the field, helping them make the stadium more accessible. And it was something he'd always wanted to do, so he gave me that opportunity, and he also let me be the co-founder of our nonprofit, the Beautiful Lives Project. I really give Anthony a lot of credit for basically giving me his nonprofit, because he wanted to do counseling for individuals who have special needs and challenges. So he gave up his dream so I could live my dream of being able to give everyone that same experience I had sitting on that basketball bench back at Evansville. So all the people across the country who might want to do things with sports teams or cheerleading teams or dance teams or the arts. So every time that I have an event like I had last night in Cumming with 3 groups of fans playing on 3 fields with various challenges and special needs, I just think about how Anthony gave me the opportunity to run this nonprofit and how I can't let him down. And I spent so much time booking the event in Georgia. I probably spent way too much time on the event last night, but seeing all the people come out and have so much fun really made it worth it, even though I've put more time into this one event than every single one I've scheduled otherwise this year, and I've done 19 now, so 18 other ones all across the country. And it's really great for me to be able to give those fans who may not have that opportunity to take part in whatever they want to take part in, whether it's one of our 5 categories or the fascination with my nonprofit now is iFly events. They almost wanted me to run one in Atlanta. Thankfully, my groups were busy, so I didn't have to go because I'm scared to death of iFly. But Robert and CJ want to go, I guess, so they might be covering iFly for me.
I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 second. So, team building event, iFly, show of hands, the number of participants. Okay, it's about evenly split, Bryce, but anyhow, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, take the ones who want to go, and the chickens like me, leave them home, because you don't want someone there who doesn't want to be there. Like,
That's
my
right.
guys are like, you should go, and I'm like, but I don't really want to be there. I'm scared. I mean, I'm just scared of it, but I think that like my fear would like show through to the participants, and you don't want that, because I've had playing on the field programs before where the manager has no desire to be there, but yet he comes out there and he doesn't want to be there anyways, and it just makes it awful because he doesn't want to be there, he's not excited. So, I mean, like, if you can't fake being excited about iFly, I think I could fake being excited about iFly. I don't really know, it might scare me. So, I'm sure I'll probably have to go at one point and try to fake being excited, but if I can't fake it well enough, I'm probably not going to go cover one again, and I'll just send people, because I've been through programs where the people don't really want to be there, and that just makes it really hard, because if coming to this program or working for this nonprofit isn't the best thing you've ever done in your life, then it shouldn't be what you're doing, because you're working really hard to get people to donate money and getting people to give speeches to people so they can set up their own chapters across the country, or various other things like that. So those are some things that I learned about, nonprofits, I guess. It's always stressful because you're always raising money, and then you're deciding, oh, should I put the money towards this or that? And then, covering various things like paying people to come in from out of state if they really want to take part in your program and they're 2 states away. So covering part of their gas because they don't have the funds. But also with our nonprofit and our programs, I think one of the best things that we do is we give people the chance to interact with groups of people who they may not have been able to interact with before, whether it's high school softball players or people doing art, just giving them that opportunity to realize there's people in the world who really want to help them, no matter what their challenge might be. If they're someone who's blind or someone who's in a wheelchair or has trouble walking, and there's people out there who really want to help them overcome their obstacles and their challenges. One of the ladies from the sports group who put it on yesterday, she used to play softball over at Evansville, and she was a soccer trainer. And one time I was sitting on the men's soccer bench by myself during halftime of a soccer match, and I was kind of lonely and kind of scared because I'd never been on a bench by myself before, and there were about 1,000 people in the stands. I'm the only idiot sitting on the field on a bench. And Haley, who's one of the leaders of Triple Crown Sports, came over and talked to me, and that really changed my life. And she was someone who helped me out in college for 4 years. I commentated her softball games on the radio, so being able to do that program with her last night was something that was really, something that I really dreamed about doing because of how much she changed my life, and what she did to help me when I first got to college. Being by myself, sitting on the bench, and coming over there to spend time with me and to make sure that I was okay. So it's moments like that where it goes beyond getting to play softball or beat baseball, because at some point some of those softball girls are going to be just as famous as you are, Robert, with their own official website with 10 links and everything, and they're going to have the choice of hiring 40 people to their staff. So is it going to be 40 people who don't have any challenges, or is it going to be 20 people who have challenges and 20 people who aren't? I hope that it's more of an even split, because even though it's going to cost more in the long term to train someone who's blind how to navigate through a building so they don't bump into doors, or get the specialized screen reading technology that a blind person might need, or for someone who has autism, putting things into words instead of pictures, depending on what type of autism they have and how strong it is. But giving those people a chance to really have a great job, not just a job where they work at McDonald's, which is a fine job, but if they're capable of more, giving them the opportunity to have more and to succeed as high as they can succeed in their life, or giving them the opportunity to find out how high they can succeed because they've never had that opportunity before. I think that's something that all companies should try to do, and something that should really drive them to want to do it, because you don't have to have a child who has special needs to want to do it. It should be everyone who's running a company, whether they have someone who has special needs or not, to give everyone the opportunity to be the best that they can be at their company, and also give that person a chance who might not have had that chance before, because he or she has cerebral palsy and they have trouble writing, but they can type just fine. They just can't write notes, but they can type it out, and they can send it to somebody in an email or a text message. Finding that way where they can work around whatever the issue or the challenges that a person can't do is important, because normally it's not something that says he or she can't do an entire job. It's something where he or she can't do 5% of that job. So you're going to let 5% stand in the way of the 95% of the job that a person can do. Instead, you should spend time figuring out what that is that he or she needs to get past that 5%, and then going on to do well with the 95% that person can do well and isn't affected by their challenge. And also, think about, like sometimes you might see someone slumping in a chair. Well, recently I had a sports team call me and say one of our staff got on one of our staff who works at a desk because he was slumping in his chair, but he wasn't meaning to slump. He was sitting in his powered wheelchair, which is under the high marble desk at this sports team's offices. So he wasn't slumping. It just looked like he was slumping from how he has to sit in his wheelchair so he can see over the desk to look at the people coming in. So the next time you see someone slumping in a chair, you may think twice about calling them out for slumping in a chair, because if you've never seen them before, they may be in a wheelchair, or have a back problem that you don't know of, or that's something that people don't really think about. Like, companies are like, oh, you have to wear dress shoes to my work, but if someone has trouble with their balance and they have to climb stairs, or they're walking through rough concrete for their job, maybe something, say, in a baseball stadium, dress shoes might not be the best thing because they don't really give such great balance. So something that would have more grip could keep that person safer. But those aren't things that people think of whenever someone comes in and they're wearing, say, a short sleeve shirt and pants, or pants and a short sleeve shirt. They just think, oh, he or she can't really dress themselves. So how do you pick between whether he or she can't really dress themselves, or is there some other challenge or some other reason why he or she might be wearing this, or he or she might not be wearing that? It's something that can be really hard for companies to figure out, and something where they don't really take the time to figure it out. They just think, oh, he or she can't really dress himself, and they're just being lazy today. And there's probably some people in the world where he or she is just being lazy today and doesn't want to do it, but there is sometimes reasons why a person can't do something or is doing something differently, and I think that's something companies struggle to to realize or scared to ask about. So I told you about our Playing on the Field program yesterday. It was quite outstanding. We had national media coming, local media, oodles of softball players playing with the fans on the field. But it was kind of sad for me. None of the softball players talked to me. Like, I gave a little speech beforehand, talked about my friend, who'd helped me in college, almost cried a little bit. Thankfully I didn't. I was really close to it. I was stressing out. I'm like, don't cry in front of 300 people. Thankfully I didn't. But so 2 of the players helped me out from the start. Actually, one of them asked to help me, so she emailed my friend and called me earlier yesterday. So she helped me the entire tournament or program yesterday. But none of the other players really talked to me, even though they saw me speaking for 4 minutes about my life and about how important it is for these softball players once they hopefully finish college and find a job, which their parents hope they find a job. Yeah, that was my little joke. You always gotta have little jokes in these things because you can't make them be so serious about life because you're gonna lose people. So sometimes I have to make fun of you, Robert, just so we have a little joke in here because we're having so much seriousness about life. You have to break that up so that people can be informed. So I thought the best joke yesterday was about high school students finding jobs because parents were going to be there. I did have a joke about running to first base, but there were no coaches there because I was going to say, well, the coaches won't have to worry about their players not actually running hard to first base after seeing how hard these players try today. But no coach each other players wouldn't really appreciate that, so that joke went out the window. But